The true man is revealed in difficult times. So when trouble comes, think of yourself as a wrestler with God who is helping you toward your true good. Epictetus. You have felt it, that hollow ache when someone vanishes from your life without explanation. The silence that follows. The questions that haunt you at night. The sudden withdrawal of warmth, leaving you alone with your thoughts, wondering where you miscalculated, what signs you missed. This is not merely about romantic disappointment. This is about something far more fundamental, your encounter with chaos in human form. The chaos arrives unexpectedly. One day, connection flows easily. The next, you face an empty void where understanding once lived. You reach out and grasp only air. You speak and hear only your echo. This pattern repeats itself not just in intimate relationships but across the landscape of your life, in friendships grown suddenly cold, in professional alliances that dissolve without warning, in family bonds that inexplicably strain. Your first instinct is to blame yourself. You dissect every interaction, searching for the fatal error. Or perhaps you rage, directing your hurt outward, casting the other as villain. Both responses chain you to the same wheel of suffering. Both keep you bound to external validation. Both reveal the uncomfortable truth: you have placed your center outside yourself. Look at your reactions when faced with withdrawal or rejection. See how quickly equilibrium abandons you. Observe how your thoughts spiral, how your chest tightens, how sleep evades you. This is not weakness, it is human, but it is not the entirety of what you can be. The Stoics understood this struggle well. When Epictetus spoke of distinguishing between what we can and cannot control, he was addressing this very dilemma. You cannot control another's actions, their consistency, their transparency. You cannot make them stay, explain, or reciprocate, but you hold absolute dominion over your response to their absence. This is where your path begins, not in controlling others but in mastering yourself. Not in demanding answers but in finding peace within questions. Not in receiving validation but in becoming your own source of strength. First, you must confront the weakness that lives within you. Not to condemn it, but to know it intimately. See how you have become dependent on responses, on acknowledgement, on the steady drip of external approval. Notice how you have positioned others as the arbiters of your worth. Each time you check for a message that hasn't arrived, each time you rehearse explanations for someone's silence, you reaffirm this dependency. The need for constant validation is not written into your DNA. It was learned, absorbed from a culture that measures value through engagement, that quantifies worth through responsiveness. You were not born seeking approval with such hunger. You learned this desperation, which means you can unlearn it. The chaos you encounter in relationships is not a punishment. It is an invitation to encounter your truest self, the part of you that exists independent of anyone's recognition. When someone withdraws without explanation, when communication suddenly fails, you stand face to face with the core fear: am I enough on my own? This question terrifies because you have been taught to doubt the answer. Every disturbance in your external connections creates a portal to internal clarity. Every disappointment offers the same choice: will you chase what withdraws, or will you stand firmly in your own presence? Will you beg for clarity from others, or will you illuminate your own path? This is not about coldness or detachment. This is about finding your center of gravity within yourself. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this when he wrote of amor fati, the love of fate. Not blind acceptance of mistreatment, but the radical embrace of life's challenges as the very conditions that forge strength. The person who ghosts you, who runs hot and cold, who leaves you questioning, they are not your tormentors. They are your teachers. Through their inconsistency, you learn consistency. Through their chaos, you discover your own order. But this teaching comes at a cost. You must first wade through the discomfort of breaking old patterns. You must endure the withdrawal symptoms of dependency. You must face the guilt and shame that arise when you begin to prioritize your own well-being over the pursuit of explanation. The guilt will speak to you in familiar voices. It will tell you that walking away means giving up, that boundaries make you selfish, that patience means endless tolerance. These voices do not speak truth. They speak fear, your fear of standing alone, of being judged insufficient, of discovering that without another's validation, you might cease to exist. This fear has ancient roots. As a child, you learned that survival depended on maintaining connection. Abandonment meant danger. This primal programming still runs in your adult mind, translating social withdrawal into existential threat. But you are no longer that child. Your survival no longer depends on any single relationship. Your worth is no longer determined by another's attention. This is the truth your fear obscures. Shame compounds this fear. Western culture has conditioned men to measure themselves against impossible standards, to never show vulnerability, to always have answers, to maintain control in all circumstances. When someone withdraws from you inexplicably, these cultural myths rise to accuse you. They whisper that a real man would know why. A real man would fix it. A real man wouldn't care. These myths trap you between denial and desperation, between toxic indifference and frantic pursuit. The path forward lies between these extremes. It requires you to break through the shell of shame, to recognize that authentic strength has nothing to do with immunity to pain. True resilience is not the absence of wounding, but the courage to remain open despite having been wounded. The strongest men are not those who feel nothing, but those who feel deeply and still move forward with intention. Carl Jung illuminated this truth through his concept of the shadow, those parts of ourselves we deny or reject. Your shadow contains not only your darker impulses, but also your vulnerability, your need for connection, your capacity for hurt. Integration, not rejection, of these aspects leads to wholeness. The man who acknowledges his pain without being defined by it walks a path toward authentic power. This integration demands discipline, not as punishment but as practice. The discipline to sit with uncomfortable emotions without acting on them. The discipline to maintain boundaries without building walls. The discipline to respond rather than react. This is not the grim, joyless discipline of deprivation. This is the focused discipline of the craftsman, shaping himself into something of enduring value. Discipline begins with small choices. When the urge to check for a message overwhelms you, can you pause and breathe instead? When anxiety tightens your chest, can you observe the sensation without being consumed by it? When anger flares at someone's inconsistency, can you acknowledge it without letting it dictate your next move? These moments of pause, this space between stimulus and response, is where your power grows. Viktor Frankl, who endured the unimaginable horrors of Nazi concentration camps, distilled this wisdom when he wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. This space exists for you in every moment of uncertainty, in every instance when someone's actions leave you questioning. In this space, you reclaim choice. You remember that another's behavior may trigger your emotions, but it need not determine your actions. You recall that your value does not increase when someone responds to you, nor diminish when they withdraw. This remembering is not a single event but a practice, repeated until it becomes reflex, until it forms the bedrock of your being. As this practice deepens, you begin to recognize that true power has nothing to do with controlling others. It has nothing to do with never being hurt, never being ghosted, never being misunderstood. True power, the kind that remains when external validation falls away, is the gravitational force you develop within yourself. This inner gravity does not pull others toward you through manipulation or demand. It grounds you so thoroughly in your own worth that you naturally attract those who recognize and respect it. It allows you to engage deeply without attachment to outcome. It enables you to offer without expectation, to connect without dependency, to care without conditions. The cultivation of this power requires solitude, not isolation, the desperate withdrawal from connection, but intentional solitude, the willingness to stand in your own presence and find it sufficient. In a culture that equates alone with lonely, that fills every silence with noise, that treats unaccompanied time as failure, this solitude becomes a radical act. In solitude, you encounter yourself without filters, without distraction, without the constant calibration of your worth through others' responses. You learn to distinguish between your voice and the voices you have internalized. You discover desires that are truly yours, separate from what you've been told to want. You face your fears directly without the buffer of constant connection. This solitude will feel uncomfortable at first. The mind, accustomed to external stimulation, rebels against quiet. The ego, habituated to validation, panics in its absence. But beneath this discomfort lies a profound liberation, the recognition that you are complete even when unwitnessed, whole even when unacknowledged, valuable even when unseen. The man who has found comfort in his own company carries this solitude with him even in crowds. He moves through social spaces without desperation, engages without agenda, connects without clutching. He has nothing to prove because he is no longer seeking proof of his worth. This creates a paradox. His lack of need makes him deeply attractive. His self-sufficiency draws others toward him, not to complete him, but to complement what is already whole. But this journey is not about becoming invulnerable. The goal is not to build impenetrable walls, but to develop such inner stability that you can remain open without fear of collapse. This openness without dependency is the hallmark of mature strength, the ability to offer your authentic self without demanding specific returns, to engage fully while maintaining your center. As you walk this path, you will encounter resistance, not just from within but from without. A culture built on consumption and comparison has little use for self-contained men. You will be encouraged to doubt yourself, to seek validation through approved channels, to measure your progress against external metrics. You will be sold endless solutions to the problem of being insufficiently desired, insufficiently respected, insufficiently seen. This resistance is not personal. It is systemic. The man who finds his center within himself threatens a social order dependent on insecurity. Your journey towards self-containment is not just personal growth, it is quiet revolution. By refusing to place your worth in others' hands, you withdraw from an economy of validation that profits from your dependency. This revolution leads not to bitterness but to its opposite, a profound capacity for genuine connection. When you no longer approach relationships from need, you can engage from abundance. When you no longer treat others as solutions to your incompleteness, you can see them clearly, appreciate them fully, love them unconditionally. The man who is complete within himself has the greatest capacity for authentic relationship precisely because he does not demand that relationships complete him. This completeness manifests as responsibility, not the grim burden of obligation, but the empowered recognition of your agency. You are responsible, capable of choosing your actions regardless of circumstance. When someone withdraws without explanation, you remain responsible for how you interpret and respond to their absence. When communication falters, you remain responsible for maintaining your own integrity. Responsibility extends beyond your reactions to encompass your entire life direction. External chaos, whether in relationships, career, or society, cannot determine your internal compass. The path you walk is yours to choose, regardless of who walks alongside you, who leaves, who returns. This choice is not made once but continuously, with each step recalibrating toward your truest purpose. The Emperor Marcus Aurelius understood this when he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This strength is not domination but steadiness, not control but clarity. It is the strength to remain purposeful when others are erratic, principle-driven when others are reactive, intentional when others are unconscious. As this strength matures in you, you develop discernment, the wisdom to recognize which connections nourish your growth and which deplete it. This is not about judging others' worth, but about honoring your path. Some people, regardless of their inherent value, cannot or will not walk alongside you with consistency. Recognizing this is not rejection, but realism. This discernment allows you to invest your energy wisely, to build relationships based on mutual respect rather than mutual need. It enables you to recognize the difference between someone working through genuine struggle and someone who uses inconsistency as control. It helps you distinguish between temporary distance and permanent withdrawal, between communication failure and communication refusal. Armed with this discernment, you make cleaner choices. You no longer respond to withdrawal with desperate pursuit or bitter rejection. You acknowledge what is, adjust your expectations accordingly, and direct your energy toward connections that demonstrate reciprocal investment. This is not about keeping score, but about recognizing patterns and responding with appropriate boundaries. Boundaries, properly understood, are not walls but thresholds. They do not isolate you from others but clarify the conditions of engagement. They communicate, silently but powerfully, this is what I will participate in, this is what I will not. When maintained with calm consistency, boundaries eliminate the need for ultimatums, demands, or manipulation. They simply allow what is aligned with your values to enter your life, while what is misaligned remains outside. The establishment of boundaries requires courage, the willingness to risk temporary discomfort for lasting peace. It demands that you value your long-term well-being over short-term relief. When you communicate a boundary, you may face resistance, guilt-inducing responses, or even abandonment. The untethered man recognizes these reactions as confirmation of the boundary's necessity, not evidence of its wrongness. This courage represents the ultimate form of strength, not the performative strength of never feeling hurt, but the authentic strength of honoring your truth despite fear. Not the false strength of controlling others, but the genuine strength of governing yourself. Not the temporary strength of emotional armor, but the enduring strength of clear values maintained with quiet resolve. In cultivating this strength, you discover something remarkable: the very ghosting, the hot and cold behavior, the unexplained withdrawals that once devastated you now barely disturb your peace. Not because you have become callous, but because you have become centered. Not because you care less, but because you have learned to care without abandoning yourself. This is freedom, not from pain, but from suffering. Not from loss, but from being lost. This freedom allows you to offer genuine compassion to yourself and to others. You recognize that inconsistency often stems not from malice, but from unconsciousness. The person who disappears without explanation, who runs hot and cold, who leaves you questioning, they are operating from their own wounds, their own fears, their own unexamined patterns. This understanding doesn't obligate you to accept harmful behavior, but it allows you to respond without added resentment. Compassion for yourself means acknowledging the pain of rejection without shame. It means recognizing that your desire for clarity, for closure, for explanation is natural and human. It means treating your own heart with the same care you would offer a friend. This self-compassion is not indulgence but medicine. Healing the parts of you that believe abandonment defines your worth. As philosopher Albert Camus observed, "In the midst of winter, I found there was, within me, an invincible summer." This summer exists within you regardless of who stays or leaves, who explains or disappears. It burns independent of external validation, warms you even in isolation, illuminates your path when others withdraw their light. The path is not perfect linearity but spiraling progress. You will have days when old patterns reassert themselves, when rejection cuts deeper than expected, when the need for validation overwhelms your center. These are not failures but opportunities to practice compassionate recovery, to notice the slip without condemnation, to reorient without self-punishment, to begin again with increased awareness. This journey transforms not just how you respond to others' behavior, but how you move through the world. You become more intentional in your communications, clearer in your commitments, more discerning in your connections. You offer consistency because you value it, not because you fear abandonment if you don't. You extend reliability because it reflects your character, not because you're trying to earn affection through service. The man you are becoming handles uncertainty without demanding immediate resolution. He can sit with unanswered questions without losing his center. He can care deeply without clinging desperately. He can extend himself fully while remaining self-contained. This paradoxical balance, fully engaged yet internally free, represents the highest expression of masculine strength. You are not becoming a man who never experiences rejection, who never faces withdrawal, who never feels the sting of unexplained absence. You are becoming a man who is no longer defined by these experiences, a man who can receive them without being diminished by them, who can integrate them without being derailed by them, who can learn from them without being limited by them. The Stoic philosopher Seneca wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectancy, which hangs upon tomorrow and loses today." When someone's inconsistency leaves you hanging, expecting, waiting, you sacrifice your present moment on the altar of their potential return. The path of wisdom teaches you to live fully where you are, to engage completely with what is, to find meaning not in what might arrive, but in what already exists within and around you. This is the ultimate truth. Your completeness exists independent of anyone's recognition of it. Your value remains constant regardless of who validates it. Your path continues whether others walk alongside you or disappear without trace. When you grasp this, not intellectually but viscerally, you step into authentic power. Not power over others, but power within yourself. Not the fragile power of control, but the enduring power of integration. You are becoming this integrated man with each breath, each choice, each moment of standing in your truth without apology. The journey continues, but you no longer walk it in confusion. You move forward with clarity, with purpose, with the quiet confidence of one who has found his center and committed to honoring it. This is not the end. This is the eternal beginning, the continuous rebirth of the man who has learned to be his own source of strength.